For example, the flood we are talking about in Akure, if we have proper drainages, if the infrastructure is improved, we see that the issues will be addressed. Like what my group leader talked about, like in Benue, the governor has identified that we encounter that a lot. So he has introduced very big drainages. And for this rainy season, what is happening now is different from what we used to encounter. So the waste of money is what happens in most cases, waste of money and resources. So if energy will be channeled into the actual issue and it will be addressed the way it has to be addressed, I think that will save money and a lot of things. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Blessing. If I'm right. Yeah.
My name
Chidima,
is Ibu.
yeah. Okay, you pay. Yeah, thank you for that contribution. Chidima, do you have anything to say? Hi, Chidima, I'm waiting for you. All right. That being said, regarding the topic on identifying the different climate vulnerabilities within our communities, one thing I will add to this presentation is that different communities are vulnerable to climate change in different ways. So for us to recommend something, or let's say like a policy recommendation, we need to consider that as a factor in recommending that kind of policy to climate change, because what is happening here in the southern region is different from what is happening in the northern region. So actions or policy being made should not be generalized. So that being said, is there any other contribution before we move to the next topic? That is the next group for their presentation. All right, I will take the silence as no.
Hello?
All right, Benedict.
Yeah, I want to add something. I feel the communities that have been affected, they should be duly represented in policy making as regards climate policies for the country and all. That's all.
All right, thank you. Moving to group two. Group two, we have Bernard as the presenter. Yeah.
When all this will happen, I beg.
Shine Mere, do you have anything for us? Oh.
So no, sorry, ma. I just I
Oh
joined
my.
not long ago. Sorry.
All right, group two, the floor is yours. All right.
Am I audible?
50.
Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen. You can proceed.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bernard, and on behalf of my group, I will be presenting Nigeria and the commitment to NDC 3, a critical look at what Nigeria has committed to under the Paris Agreement and what it will take to move from pledge to implementation. To begin, let's understand why climate action is so important for Nigeria. Climate change is not a future problem for Nigeria. It's happening right now. We see it through devastating floods, desertification in the north, coastal erosions, food insecurity, and increasing heat waves. Although Nigeria contributes a relatively small share of global emissions, we are among the countries most vulnerable to this climate impact. These vulnerabilities makes climate actions a priority, both in environmental way and also for development. This brings us to the global agreement that guides climate actions. So now let's understand what this Paris Agreement is. In 2015, countries around the world adopted the Paris Agreement to tackle climate change. Under this agreement, every country developed nationally determined contributions, or the NDCs, which are National Climate Action Plans. These plans outline how countries intend to reduce emissions and kind of adapt to climate change while also reporting the
I
progress
don't know
over
whether it
time.
was my network or what exactly. I've been following the platform and everything. I don't even know when they grouped everybody.
Are you talking to me or should I proceed? Okay. So, how has Nigerian commitment been done or evolved over the years? Uh, well, this is just the structure of how it's from the Paris Agreement to countries making their own report on NDCs, taking actions on climate, and which results to monitoring and also reporting back to the Paris Congress. Now, Nigeria submitted its first NDC in 2015, updated it in 2021, and further strengthened its commitment through the NDC 3. One important feature of the updated NDC, as you can see here, is the distinction between 20% unconditional and 47% conditional reduction. So what does this mean? You know, an unconditional target is what Nigeria itself commits to achieving using its own resources and policies. This kind of while for the a conditional target represents the additional reduction that is dependent on international funding, such as finance, technological, or maybe capacity building through research or other workshop and training. Now, this support from the international body reflects the principle of climate change, climate justice under the Paris Agreement, where developing countries take actions while receiving support from developed countries that have historically contributed more to global emissions. Now, beyond these targets, let's look at what NDC actually contains. These are the major factors or sectors that it's contained in the NDC. It provides a kind of a broad framework for sustainable development and climate resilience. It addresses key sectors such as the energy, health, water resources, transportation, forestry, oil and gas, waste management, and agriculture. The idea here is to integrate kind of climate action into a national development plan. Now, let's briefly look at some of these sectorial commitments uh, based on the different sectors. Now, in the energy sector, Nigeria aims to expand renewable energy and improve energy efficiency. In oil and gas, there's a focus on reducing methane emissions and gas flaring. Forestry promotes for kind of reforestation and also sustainable land management, while agriculture encourages climate smart farming practices. Together, these sectors form the Nigerian's climate strategy, which kind of a backbone, and also more on the adaptation commitment, such as the flood and drought resilience, coastal zone protections. Now, these commitments have several strengths. Let's look at it now. Next slide. Some of these strengths, it's directly has very positive futures for the Nigerian economy, and it aligns with the Paris Agreement. This includes kind of net zero emissions, strong adaptation focused, a just transition framework, and cognitions of vulnerable groups, and also integration of development and climate goals. You see, however, the Nigerian has very beautiful policies, vision, or mission for its climate action, but this does not really translate or guarantee implementation. Now, the biggest challenge facing Nigeria is not making this climate commitment, it's implementing them actually. So we must ask important questions. Can this project be financed? Do institutions have the capacity to implement them, or can progress be properly monitored? This is where the gap between policy and practices becomes visible. Now, let's examine these implementation challenges in my next slide. Now, several challenges affect implementations. One is the limited climate finance, weak institutional coordinations, inadequate data systems, and inconsistent policy enforcement, and also low community participation, which all slow progress of implementation. Now, without addressing these barriers, achieving NDC targets will remain very, very difficult. One particularly important challenge is the energy transition. Now, can Nigeria decarbonize without increasing poverty? Nigeria faces a very unique dilemma. We need to reduce emissions while also addressing energy poverty and supporting economic growth. However, millions of Nigerians still lack reliable electricity and depend on generators. The challenge is to decarbonize without really creating any new kind of inequality or unemployment. So what will it take to move from pledge to implementation? That is my next, I'll explain my next slide. Now, we have to come in with strong climate finance, both from the national and also the international community. We have to improve our data systems, better governance, expanded renewable energy, and most importantly, greater involvement of states and local government. Climate action should not remain a federal responsibility alone. It must reach communities across Nigeria. So now, because it is important that both state and local government should actively participate, this boils down to young people and local communities having a very important role in bridging this gap. Young people and the communities in general are very good partners in implementing this NDC. They can raise awareness, monitor projects, collect climate data, also promote green entrepreneurship, and strengthen accountability. See, communities should not simply just receive the climate project. They should actively participate in shaping and monitoring them. So, based on our analysis, we propose the following recommendations. We recommend strengthening climate finance transparency, improving governance, expanding renewable energy, investing in climate smart agriculture, support youth-led initiatives, improving climate data systems, and increasing community participation. So these actions can help bridge the gap between ambitions and implementations. Even during our first session, when the speaker was asking us to pitch something, the idea of this youth kind of a youth-led community initiative on climate, where youth have to collect data, is very important. Know what projects to be done in this community, where is done, how much money was budgeted for the project, and what are the benefits of this project. You see, I think that is just a practical way of youth being active in some of these implementations and also bridge that gap of accountability. It's simple. If everybody can use mobile devices now, right? So, with your mobile devices and GPS tracking systems, some of these things can be tracked and monitored. So, yeah, finally, let's summarize our key findings. Nigeria's NDC represent a very important commitment towards climate resilience and sustainable development. However, the success of this commitment depends on effective implementations, inadequate financing, strong institutions, political will, community participation as well. So, yeah, the challenge for Nigeria is no longer making the promises itself, but the real challenge is ensuring that these commitments or pledges translate into measurable improvement in people's life. Thank you for your time and listening, and we welcome your questions.
Thank you, Bernard. Thank you, Group 2, for that wonderful presentation and the job well done. So is there anybody in Group 2 who is ready to add in or contribute to what the presenter has said so far? Anyone? Group 2 members? All right. Group 2 members, do we have any other person want to contribute? Okay, Shinedu. All right. You can just raise your hand so that I can unmute you. Good luck. I'm coming.
You can just speak.
All right.
Oh, okay. Okay. Can you hear me?
Hello?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes, I
okay.
can hear you.
Okay, this is Chinedu speaking. So I'm a member of Group 2. After our whole presentation, one thing that stood out to me is that Nigeria challenge is not the lack of climate commitment, but it's the implementation of those commitments. So we have targets for renewable energy, supporting climate smart agriculture, but without transparency and the monitoring systems and maybe public accountability, these commitments may just remain on paper. So I will advise as the young people in this role, we should take a role by monitoring these projects, raising awareness, using digital tools to track progress since we are in internet age now. So I think that's all I can say. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that, Shinedu. The next person should speak. You can just talk.
All right. Good day, everyone.
Good day to
So,
you.
my name is Good Luck. I'm from Group 2, and after our deliberations, we came up with some recommendations, and one of them is that for now, the NDC 3.0 is basically a promise that Nigeria has made that they are going to do this and do that. It's not actually a legislative law. It has not been passed into law. Sometimes things get done when there are laws and there are consequences to persons breaking these laws. For example, if we put a law on irregular waste dumping or gas flaring for oil companies, then these things can be punishable. Then also, we also talked about trying to get funding. And recommendation for that is that the thing is most investors, both private and foreign investors, would like projects that are already have a mapping on ground. So we should at least build a pipeline for investable projects such that if the investor is coming, he or she must have seen, okay, this is what Nigeria has already put on ground. Let's say we want to do a solar farm for energy. Okay, we can say, okay, we've been able to secure this amount of land. What we need as Nigeria, what we need the funding for is to expand or to do this. But if we do not have investable projects on ground, then I believe foreign investors may not really wants to invest in our project or invest in even our climate efforts. Then lastly, I think we should put money behind it because the NDC as at this time is not really added to the the national budget. We have a promise of about 20% unconditional this thing, but there's no budget line. I did a little bit of research in our national budget. There's no budget line specifically for this particular purpose. So I believe if the from the national level, if we can actually make this work, like there's a budget, let's say so amount of money is going towards this, and not just that we are going to do this maybe as part of other sectors chipping in. No, let there be a special budget for this. So I think these are some of the recommendations that we have as group too. And I want to say big thanks to Bernard. It was a wonderful presentation, sir.
All right, thank you for that. Good luck. Mukta, I
Okay.
can see that you put up your hand.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you so much. So my name is Mukhtar Adamu Bulakarima. I'm also a member of Group 2. So my recommendation is that to ensure the NDC implementation, we need to have a strategic partnership with other international climate organizations to champion this initiative, and also launching a national climate fellowship so that will empower young people and communities to get to know the NDC 3.0. Actually, many communities around remote areas, local areas, they don't know about the NDC 3.0 policy and the climate change. So, if we can come up with this national climate action, national climate fellowship, so it will help to empower the rural and young people to get to know the policy and NDC implementation policy gaps in that NDC. Thank you.
Thank you, Mukta, for the contribution. All right. So, in addition to what everybody has said, we've all identified problem as regarding climate change. What are the climate change impacts that we have been faced with, both at regional level, we've already recognized them, but the problem is that the Paris Agreement has already made some certain commitment that they will follow and they will embark on board. The problem right now is the implementation problem. So the recommendation policy we can always advocate for is accountability and implementation progress, like how they are going to implement those policy to put them in place and to solve the identified problem which we've all identified. So moving to the third group, Group 3, the floor is yours for your presentation.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Okay. Let me try and see if I can share my screen. Sorry. Let me see if I can share my screen. Please confirm if you can see my screen.
Not yet.
Okay. Sorry. Give me some seconds. Hello, can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. Please, if you can see this slide, just confirm. Thank you.
Yes, we can see it's trying to open.
Open, thank you.
I can't see anything. Damsak, what's happening from your hand? Hi, Damsak. All right, I don't think maybe I think we can proceed with group 4, Abby. If Damsak, will you prepare for the next presentation and let the group 4 set in so that we can that we
Okay,
want.
okay. Thank you.
All right, group 4, I hope you are prepared as well. Group 4
Yes,
will.
where group 4 is prepared.
All right, thank you.
Okay, please let me share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, okay, okay. Uh, am I audible enough?
Yes, you have.
Oh, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lekes Jacob Johanna. I'm representing Group 4 on this all-important bootcamp. And the topic we're focusing on is fueling the future, fossil fuel dependency, and the just transition. So here, as you can see on the next slide, we have Nigerian energy paradox. It is a common knowledge, we all know that Nigeria is the largest oil producing country in Africa and one of the largest oil producers in the world. And then, but despite the fact that we power the world with oil, several millions of barrels of oils every day, several millions of barrels of oils are produced every day, but unfortunately, we still cook with firewood, with charcoals. We take our phones and our gadgets to roadside kiosks and we run generators, just like Group 2 made mention of, generator dependence. You could see that is a huge paradox. While we are rich in fuel out there, we power the world, yet we are poor at home. We're living in the traditional way. So now, what is the world saying? The world is saying we have to move away from fossil fuel. Petrol, gas, and all those things, they are fossil products, which they, after burning them, they give out greenhouse gases. Greenhouse gas, and then, so how do we move away? How do we transition away from this kind of practice? And that in transitioning, we don't leave the communities that are affected or communities where we get this oil from are not left behind. And also the people who depend on oil for survival, who works in the oil industry, whether directly or in the oil supply chains, are not also left behind. So that is the focus of this presentation on Group 4. So we're looking at the backbone and the resource costs. Now, historically, we know that since the discovery of oil in commercial quantity in Nigeria in the 50s, petrol has become a dominant structural anchor of the entire Nigerian state. So Nigeria oil is the major backbone of Nigerian GDP and several other things. So we could see about 90% of Nigerian gross domestic products rely on oil export and any other things are accrued from oil. So foreign exchange is there, we have fiscal dependency there, we generate government revenues, and then there's this issue of vulnerability. The communities where these oils are derived from, the Niger Delta regions, people have cried out, a lot of papers written, a lot of policies passed on papers, and all these things just remain there. The cleanup of the lands and several other factors. Gas flaring is also on the increase, and a lot of communities become, in this what we call stranded communities. They become stranded. Their source of livelihood paralyzed because of what? Oil dependency. So all these are fossil fuel. We are depending on it. While other countries are moving away gradually from oil dependence, Nigeria is looking at how to expand its oil exploration across, in fact, up to the north, Nasarawa State, which is very close to Plateau State. Here, they are celebrating the discovery of reserve of crude oil reserve in one of their communities. And that is the stories all around Nigeria. countries are moving away. Nigeria is expanding along this line. Now, the international community, how do we move away from such practice? That is what we call the just transition. It's a just transition. How do we transition from this fossil fuel dependence? So we look at the global climate pressures and commitments, the Paris Agreement, which already been Group 2 I've talked about. We also have the idea of net zero. So the Paris Agreement wants to cut down on greenhouse emissions, which is one of the commitment, and then the net zero. It's said that no new oil and gas fields are what required globally, because what if we want to meet the target of 2050, if we want to cut down on green gas emission, we don't need to expand. Countries don't need to expand on fossil fuel consumption. We don't need that. Then we also have the financial friction, where we have green institutions are also looking. They are looking for loans behind climate conditions. The European Union's carbon border adjustment mechanism, they function just and what as an import carbon tax. So Nigeria, our own NDC 3.0 action plan, we have the unconditional targets, the conditional target Group 2 have already made mention of that, and then the energy transition plans, which was launched in 2022. All these ones are aimed at what? At meeting the regulation of cutting out on emission, as long as fossil fuel consumption is required in the country. Okay, let's look at the commitment, and then the reality gap, and then the equity. So looking at the operational gaps, Nigeria's current trajectory, we fall short of the ETP convention. Gas flaring persists because what? We are still flaring gas in the Niger Delta area, because the mechanisms to trap this gas so that we can use them for economic purpose have not been established. So gas are still being flared, and then we have the rapid decarbonization, which also present a very serious domestic policy roadblocks or policy issue for Nigeria as a whole. So what is a core negotiation argument at COP? Nigeria has contributed, negligibly to cumulative global emission, yet it is asked to sacrifice fossil fuel-led growth model that wealthy nations use freely for over a century. So you could see that we are living like we are on the opposite sides, where what we are trying to let go, other countries have converted over a long period of time, and they are using it effectively in such a way that it takes care of their environment. But in Nigeria, the reverse is always the case. So, what is the just transition that we are looking at? Now, originating now, the word just transition originated from the labor movement. It ensures that the shift to a low carbon economy protects vulnerable population rather than what? Abandoning them. So if we are transitioning from fossil fuel consumption, anything that has to do with oil, gas, and its byproducts and several other things that emit greenhouse gases, generators, and several other things. What do we do to these communities that produce the oil? We can't just abandon them, as I said earlier. So what we need to do, what Nigeria needs to do as a country, and is that one, we have to what? Manage fossil fuel decline in fair, inclusive, and humane manner. We also have to ensure that energy-starved communities benefit directly from the change. We are changing, okay, we're transitioning to a more environment that to a system that favors the environment, that will not damage the environment. These communities that are oil dependent will make sure that they are also carried along. They also benefit from the change, from the shift, and then so that we will not transfer poverty, from one subgroup into another. because if we just cut them off, then it means they will have to they will have difficulty in trying to cope with the new change. So in as much as Paris Agreement, the Kyoto Protocols, and then the NDC, and then several other COPs and any climate action technique, communities that produce this fossil fuel, especially in our Niger Delta regions, they have to be taken care of. They have to be considered in the transition, in the just transition. And several thousands of oil workers would also have to, the kind of what we call reskilling, they have to, they have to, they are changing, they are, so they have to do that in such a way that it will take care of their own need while not leaving them. Nobody is being left behind. So nobody is being left behind. Uh, the vulnerable sector, then we also have gender issue. We also have, we know that most when we talk about uh, use of energy, it's affect most rural women. I'm from the rural area here in Plateau State. I can categorically say that growing up, we what we know as our source of energy is firewood and charcoal, and now we know that it's causing a lot of destruction to the environment. So we have to transition to a clean cooking alternative, which is our biogas, LPG, and then advanced stuff. So we can just do that in such a way that it will help in sustaining our environment. Now, how do we do in order to move away from this fossil fuel? That is the findings. Now, moving away from the fossil fuel, we know that throughout this year, the national grid has collapsed over how many times? It's now uncountable. And it's not every community that is connected to the national grid. Uh, in my community where I am presently, and most of the rural communities around here, we have the mini grids. Some companies, some private individuals have come to install solar in commercial quantities in our communities. And so it's really helping. That is what is powering our communities. I think over 10 communities in Plateau State were benefiting from that. It's off the national grid. So that one is really helping. We're using that. So that one too is an alternative. Renewable energy will really help in order to make sure that we move away from burning of fossil fuels and several other sources of energy. So we have the sunlight, other groups have made mention, and in our previous bootcamps, our sessions, we've made mention that the energy, the sunlight is there. So all we need is just the political will by our leaders and private individuals uh, who could afford this to set up this mechanism in place to bring clean energy to the environment. So it would really help us a lot in this aspect. And we also have, apart from our renewable energy, we also have the green jobs, the economic diversification, and the green jobs. We try as much as possible to see that jobs are created. Green agriculture, it would really help in powering up our economy as well. So there are several areas there which we need to as a we need to invest in to move away from the fossil fuel. Reforestation is there, carbon sequestering, and via land management. While for clean cooking, we prevent the use of firewood and bringing down of firewood. Forests for charcoals and several other things. And then the renewable, I've talked about, and then we have a carbon market activation policy. So all these are areas of finding in which we can move away from the fossil fuel dependency, which is doing a serious devastation to our environment. So in conclusion, the future that Nigeria wants, we could see that we want growth, we want total energy access, and we want poverty reduction. And that future is climate. Climate demands are not in conflict, but we are getting their required structure, honestly. So with commitment. So the question now remains, the transition will happen, but the question is whether Nigeria will shape the transition on its own terms or we will have it shaped for us. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you for that wonderful presentation. Of as a camp as of course, sorry for that. So thank you for that wonderful presentation. Any contribution from the participants before Group 3 take the floor? All right. Uzebo, please, can you unmute yourself? Otasowe, can you?
Um, Good afternoon, and my name is Oyetka Prosper, a member of Group 4. So thank you so much, Mr. Jacob, for a wonderful presentation. My contribution is that in as much as the NDC 3.0 is meeting up with our Nigerian standard of the Paris Agreement for emission reduction in Nigeria. And from our presentation, we're talking about how we can be able to make a just transition that will carry everybody along. So I believe that the most question that we ask ourselves is that we make sure that our leaders from the local communities are not embezzling in terms of climate financing. When we look at getting the money to do the job for green energy and all that, that it gets to the right people that should be involved, the people that should not be left behind. We don't use corruption and take it out from these people so that they don't go back using fossil fuels and still because if we don't give them the opportunity to get involved, we cannot see any progress because they will still go back to the old ways. What we are trying to reduce will now be what will now be rampant even after introducing the green energy. So that would be my contribution. So to be on deck to make sure that we have a very successful, just transition that will carry everybody, both the rich and the poor, along. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Prosper. Then let's move to group 3 for their presentation. I hope they are ready now because of our time. The time is fast spent. Thank you, Group 4, for that wonderful presentation. I realized that I haven't appreciate you guys. All right.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
And hope you guys can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry for earlier on. I had a bit of technical glitch. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bartet Dansak, and I'm here to speak on behalf of Group 3, and I'll be presenting on mapping the stakeholder behind Nigeria NDC 3.0, who is responsible for delivering Nigeria climate commitment. Nigeria, as we are aware, is a country with diverse areas, diverse policies and all. And we have a roadmap to reducing greenhouse emission, adapting to climate impact, and supporting sustainable development under the Paris Agreement. However, achieving these targets is not the responsibility of one institution alone. It requires collaboration between government agencies and the private sectors. And we will be examining those that's the stakeholders who are involved, and whether their current effort has matched the scale of Nigeria climate challenge. So Nigeria has committed to the NDC 3.0, and our commitment so far is achieving 20% unconventional emission reduction by 2030 using domestic resources. We also have chosen 47 conditional emission reduction with international support, mobilizing approximately 304 billion in
This
climate
is the
finance,
house.
as well as extending climate commitment towards 2035. Now, these targets affect sectors such as energy, agriculture, transportation, forestry, waste management, in the industries, etc., etc. Now, the question is, who will deliver this commitment? Now, the stakeholder landscape has the various stakeholder groups. We have the government institution, we have state and local government, we have private sectors, we have civil society organizations, as well as youth groups, we have development partners, we have the academia, the research institutes, as well as citizens and communities as well. Now, each of these stakeholders play a very unique role within the climate governance system. Now, the government institutions, as we are aware, we have the different um, levels of government. We have the federal government, we have state government, as well as local government. But for the federal, we would be having the Federal Ministry of Environment, who are the ministry involved in environmental actions, environmental issues, climate actions, and the rest. Now, the lead ministry, which is the Minister of Environment, is responsible for climate policy development and coordination. And the departments that the key departments that are involved in this are the Department of Climate Change. We have the Forestry Department, as well as the Environmental Assessment Department. We also have agencies such as the National Council for Climate Change, which is the NCCC, which was created under the Climate Change Act in 2021, and they are responsible for coordinating climate action nationally. They also monitor implementation of climate policies, advising the president on climate matters, and also tackling the NDC implementation. Now, other federal ministries that are involved in climate in the NDC 3.0, we have the Ministry of Power, who are responsible for renewable energy integration and energy transition. We have the Ministry of Agriculture, we have the Ministry of Water Resources, we have the Ministry of Transportation, Ministry of Finance, who mobilizes climate finance and green investment. And other relevant agencies, we have the National Emergency Management Agency, we have the Nigerian Meteorological Agency, we have the National Space Research and Developmental Agency, we have the Rural Electrification Agency, as well as the Energy Commission of Nigeria. Now, although these institutions framework is strong, but coordination amongst them remains a challenge. Then for the states and local government, we have the climate, we have these are involved with the local implementation of climate actions, waste management, flood control, urban planning. We also have them engaging in tree planting and adaptation projects, and limited funding and capacity is always going to be their challenge. Examples of this state institution, I am from Kaduna State, so I will mention for Kaduna State, we have the Kaduna State Ministry of Environment, we have Lagos State Ministry of Environment and Water Resources, we have the Lead Flood Management and Climate Resilience Initiative, we have the State Emergency Management Agencies, which respond to climate-related and disaster emergencies. Then for the local government, we have the who are responsible for waste management, flood drainage maintenance. We also have community adaptation project, tree planting campaigns, etc., etc. And like I earlier mentioned, one of the major challenge for them is the inadequate funding and technical capacity. For the private sector, we have the renewable energy companies. Examples are the Lumos Nigeria, Energy, Daystar Power, and Solar Sister Nigeria. They are involved with renewable energy. We also have the oil and gas transition efforts, green finance, ESG investments, growing, but still, one of the challenges is they are growing, but alignment, the alignment is really not as sufficient as it ought to be. And we have the civil society network who whose role is to play a vital role in advocacy, accountability, and public awareness. Major NGOs and CSOs in Nigeria, we have the Nigerian Climate Innovation Center, we have Connected Advocacy, we have Health of Mother Earth Foundation, we have the Climate and Sustainable Development Network, we have the Nigerian Youth SDG Network, which we are all gathered here to be part of. We have Yaga Africa, we have Center for 21st Century Issues, we have African Climate Foundation, and many more. And their role includes, like I mentioned earlier, climate awareness, community mobilization, policy advocacy, as well as government accountability. Then for the development partners, we have international organizations who provide financing and technical expertise and capacity building. Some of these development partners include the United Nations Development Program. We have the United Nations Environmental Program, as well as the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. There are quite a number of them, and without these partners, I'll have to say that Nigeria climate finance requirement will be extremely difficult. Then for the academia, sorry, I'm trying to do it because of time. For the academia, we have these are research institutions that generate evidence that inform climate policies. We have universities like Ahmed Bello, we have the University of Lagos, we have the University of Ibadan, we have the Nigerian Institute of Oceanography and Marine Research, we have the National Center for Energy and Research Development. And like I earlier mentioned, their work supports climate modeling, vulnerability assessment, policy analysis, innovation, and technology development. Unfortunately, some of these research findings are also underutilized in policy making. Now, when we compare these stakeholders' effort against the scale of climate challenges, we see mixed results. For example, we have the solar investment, which is increasing, but millions still lack reliable electricity. We have the flood adaptation programs, which exist, but flooding continues to affect communities annually. Then we also have the afforestation project, which is ongoing, yet deforestation remains one of the major challenges in Nigeria. In different local communities, we get to see people cutting down trees without having to plant new trees. Then we have climate finances, which is growing, but remains far below required level. And some states have climate plans, but some other states do not have a climate plan at all. So therefore, this progress exists, yes, but they are not yet sufficient. Now, one of the challenges and gaps that we have is we have weak institutional coordination, we have insufficient funding, we have limited technical capacity, we have inadequate monitoring system, we have low awareness in some communities, as well as slow implementations at state level. Now, these challenges continue to slow progress towards the NDC targets in Nigeria. Now, in conclusion, Nigeria entry NDC 3.0 cannot be achieved by government alone. Success depends on effective collaboration between government institutions, private sectors, civil society organizations, development partners, the academia, as well as the citizens, which is you and I. And this institution exists, the policy exists, but the commitment as well exists. Now, the real challenge is translating this commitment into measurable action that improves lives, strengthens resilience, and also secure a sustainable future for Nigeria. Um, I want to believe that among all the stakeholders we have discussed, there are groups who um, are supposed to not single out per se, but they are supposed to come together, and it takes everyone to come together to ensure that this collaborative effort gives result. Thank you, and thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Damsak, for that wonderful presentation. And to all Group 3 members, thank you for your commitment and efforts. All right. Any contributions from Group 3 members? So, Pelumi, you have the floor.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. I am Pelumi Ejegede from Group 3. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, but I would like you to be snappy with your contributions. Can
Yes,
you
I'll
hear
be
me?
very fast. So I just want to double. Yes, I can. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, can go ahead.
All right. I just want to double down a bit on how we about the stakeholders. You mentioned academia and research. People who are in the academia and research unit, and we as citizens. I just want to double down a bit. So, academia and research remains underutilized, and that's the truth. Nigerian universities and think tanks produce climate data and policy analysis that really reaches decision makers in time to shape policy. In order to close this gap, it is important that academia and research, people who are in the academia and research unit, they build formal channels between research institutions and the NCCC. And this would significantly improve the quality of NDC implementation planning. Also, for citizens, citizens are actually the reason NDC 3.0 exists. And ultimately, it is most important that citizens change their behavior on cooking fuels, waste unit, and land management. Because if they do not really change this, it gets back to them. It is if you do not work on that behavior, or the cooking with fuel, if you do not manage your waste effectively, it comes back to you. And without public understanding of and ownership of climate action, without the citizens really coming to an understanding and owning climate action, the best designed policies will not translate into measurable outcomes. It will not. So the message is very clear. NDC 3.0 is too large and too complex for any single actor to carry. The question is not whether collaboration is needed. We already have stakeholders. Batek, when he was talking about the stakeholders, he mentioned quite a number of persons. We already have stakeholders, people who have shown interest at certain points to contribute to climate action. So that is not the question. Collaboration is not the question right now. What the question is right now is whether coordination mechanisms, financing flows, and accountability systems are strong enough to make the collaboration real. This is the work that we actually have ahead. The question is not collaboration. The question is all of the things that have been put in place so far, how are we putting them into action? So it is basically about implementation and application. So thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pelumi, for the addition. So, Abdul Hamid, you have 2 minutes, please. Hello, Abdul Hamid, can you hear me?
Yeah, good
Please.
afternoon, everyone. Once again, I appreciate our presenter report. I'm Issa Lamit Wuru, member of Group 3. I'd like to point down on the assessment, that is the assessment carried out that assessing Nigeria climate governance landscape, the stakeholder institute, and the implementation challenges. So the challenges are lined out here that we are having, and what is the mitigant, that is the current response, and would that be enough? So the first challenges we highlighted is energy assessment. So current response, what is the current response from all these stakeholders and the helping hands to Nigeria to the NDC 3.0? The growing solar investment, and that is partial because the challenge in the burning forces is very high compared to the solar growing solar investment that is carrying on now. And people cannot be able to afford that much. There is less awareness about that, which hardly it reaches to all the stages that we want it to grow. So more attention needed to be put down through these stakeholders and all the arms that are being mentioned in the policy to contribute to our climate change. Then the next challenge is flooding. Flooding, you hear every state, random, every state now that have riverine around, every year they are responding of flooding, overflooding. And the NEMA alone, the response that we have, current response is NEMA and adaptations project. And NEMA alone cannot be able to withstand that due to the need other implementations like finance and the others to be able to boost their activities. So NEMA alone cannot be able to stand and withstand the flooding challenge. It keep on growing every year and the government are not implementing what they are expected of. And leaving the NEMA alone cannot be able to do that. That is not enough. Then deforestation. Deforestation, it becomes the deal of the day. Despite the policy behind it, as I will be able to cite examples of the deforestation environment that I live in, like Kaduna State, Niger, Kwara, and Oyo State. And the best opportunity to explain this is the Kanji Lake National Park. Hello,
Yeah, I said, can you
the
please try
Kanji Lake National Park. Okay. The Kanji Lake National Park, the pre-colonial period when these national parks are introduced, they say what they did is what? To create law, the policy is to stand for afforestation. The killing of wild animals came later. But today, this deforestation become the deal of the day that people are what? Importing it outside. Chinese are coming into our country, buying these timbers and taking it then to their own nation. If you ask them why are they here, they said, oh, the policy for them in their country is very high. So they are not looking at alternatives way. So I think collaboration needed most, and awareness and all the arms need to work together. Our challenges is what lack of implementation, but we have good and best policy that we work out. In fact, even the war we have to look at if we implement our policies. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Abdulami, and thank you everyone for joining the session so far since when we began this session. So, quick notice and announcement to all of us. Our virtual graduation will be coming up on the 20th of this month. So, I hope you are all looking forward to that. And for the subsequent testing, our attendance list for those who are yet to fill the attendance form will be sent to us as well via email and together with the learning sessions and the learning session resources as well. So I'd like to ask if, have we enjoyed the session so far since we started this Climate Voice Bootcamp? I'd like to hear a review, a feedback. If just one person can speak for the all participants, or you can also react with your emojis as well.
Yes, we enjoyed it greatly. In fact, it's one of the best opportunities that we had because these are issues that you are seeing. You are an eyewitness to all this, but there is no way you can be able to go and complain. And right now is an opportunity to speak out. You know, it is a welcome idea, and we know the contribution from your own side and our side will go a long way. Thank you, and we appreciate your effort and keep doing the good work. Thank you.
All right, for the group photograph, please, I'd like us to turn on our camera so that we can take a group photograph right now. All right, let's do that. Ibu, I haven't seen your camera on. Bernard, yeah. Thank you all for making this session a wonderful one for me as well. Later, see you all. Thank you.
Taking the photo.